My name is Ella. I'm 19 years old, barefoot, bleeding, and officially out of places to go. The bus was gone. I stood in the darkness, lungs heaving, gravel biting into my feet, clutching my bag like a lifeline. I could still hear Edward's voice echoing in my head, calm at first, then sharp as broken glass. You're not going anywhere. I glanced over my shoulder. The road behind me was empty, but I knew better than to trust it. Edward wouldn't just let me vanish. He'd check the roads, the stations. He'd smile at anyone who asked questions and make it sound like I was the problem, confused, dramatic, unstable. My mother would believe him. Maybe everyone would. I had two choices: stay out here and wait to be found, or disappear fast. I picked a third option. I ran. Off the road, through wet grass and low shrubs. Heart hammering so loud I thought it might draw headlights to me like a siren. Branches whipped my arms and face, but I didn't stop. I cut across a shallow ditch, crawled through a hole in a wire fence, and found myself in an overgrown lot behind a shuttered gas station, perfect, empty. I crouched there, chest heaving, and tried to think. I still had cash. My phone was on airplane mode. No way for Edward to trace me, at least not immediately. But my window to escape was closing fast. If I stayed on foot, I wouldn't even make it to the next town by dawn. A low rumble of an engine made me freeze. Headlights swept the main road, a truck this time, not Edward's car, and kept moving. I exhaled shakily. Then I heard footsteps, not from the road, behind me in the lot, crunching softly through weeds and trash. I ducked lower, pressing myself against the shadowed wall of the old station. My first thought was Edward, of course, but Edward didn't sneak. He stalked. Whoever this was moved differently, slower, hesitant. Ella, a voice hissed, low but urgent. Is that you? I blinked, disoriented. It wasn't Edward. It wasn't my mother. From the dim glow of a distant streetlight, a figure emerged, tall, lanky, wearing a hoodie with the hood up. My stomach tightened. For one terrifying second, I thought it might be one of Edward's friends, someone he sent to grab me. Then the figure pushed back the hood, and I recognized him. It was Mason. We'd had a few classes together last year. Quiet guy, always in the back row. The kind you forget is there until he says something weirdly smart. I hadn't seen him much since graduation. Just glimpses at the corner store or on his bike around town. Why was he here? Mason, I whispered, confused and breathless. I thought that was you. He stepped closer, glancing nervously toward the road. I was riding home and saw you tearing down the street like your life depended on it. What's going on? I hesitated. How could I explain this in 30 seconds? That my mom's boyfriend was obsessed with me. That he'd locked me inside my own house. That I'd just escaped by throwing gravel in his face. Mason would think I'd lost my mind. But something in his expression stopped me. He wasn't smirking. He wasn't asking out of idle curiosity. He looked worried, like he already knew enough to believe me. It's Edward, I said finally, voice shaking. I have to get out of here, tonight. Mason's jaw tightened. Yeah, I figured. I stared at him. You figured. He glanced back toward the road, then back at me. You think people don't notice him hanging around, watching you? The guy gives me the creeps. I've been keeping an eye out when I can. For a second, I couldn't speak. Someone had seen. Someone had believed me, even without me saying a word. Come on, Mason said. My bike stashed around the corner. We can at least get you out of town before he finds you. Normally, I'd have argued, a bike, against Edward and his car. No contest. But I didn't have better options, and Mason looked dead serious. I followed him through a gap in the fence to a cracked alley where his beat-up mountain bike leaned against the wall. Hop on the back, he said. I hesitated. We'll never outrun him. Maybe not, Mason admitted, swinging a leg over the bike. but I know places he won't think to look. You trust me? Did I? I wasn't sure. But right now, he was the only person offering me a way out. I climbed on behind him, clutching my bag and gripping the sides of his hoodie as he pedaled hard, tires crunching over gravel. We cut through side streets and dirt paths I'd never noticed before. Every time headlights appeared in the distance, Mason veered off into darker routes. After what felt like forever, we reached an abandoned barn on the edge of town. Mason rolled the bike inside, leaned it against the wall, and shut the door. "No one comes out here," he said, breathing hard. "You can lay low until morning. Then I'll get you to the bus station in Millerton, to town's over. Edward won't think to check there first." I sank onto a dusty bale of hay, trembling from adrenaline and exhaustion. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. Mason shrugged, but his expression was serious. "Because I know what guys like him are capable of. My sister went through something like this. Nobody believed her until it was too late." My throat tightened. I wanted to thank him, but the words stuck. "Try to get some sleep," he said, settling against the door like a guard. "I'll keep watch." But sleep didn't come easy. Every creak of the barn sounded like footsteps. Every passing car on the distant road made my heart race. Somewhere out there, Edward was hunting me, and if he found this place, I knew he wouldn't just drag me home. He'd make sure I never tried to run again. I clutched my bag to my chest, forcing myself to breathe, to stay quiet. For the first time in days, I didn't feel completely alone. But I also knew this was far from over. Edward wasn't the kind of man who gave up. And when he came looking, I had the sickening feeling Mason and I were about to find out just how far he'd go. I thought I could run forever. I was wrong. I woke up in the barn to faint light slipping through cracks in the wood. Mason was still sitting by the door, head drooped but not fully asleep. For a moment, I almost felt safe, almost. "We need to move," he said softly when he saw me stir, "before anyone starts looking this way." But Edward was already looking. By noon, we were on a bus out of Millerton. I sat hunched in the back seat, hood over my head, trying not to breathe too loud. Mason kept glancing at me like he expected Edward to burst through the aisle any second. When the bus rolled into a small town 3 hours away, I felt a bit of relief. I thought I'd finally gotten ahead of him. I thought wrong. My phone lit up even though it was still on airplane mode, dozens of missed calls and messages piled up from my mom. My stomach sank. She never called this much, not even when I was sick. I switched the phone on for just 1 second. The screen exploded with notifications. "Mom, Ella, please pick up." "Mom, Edward is worried sick." "Mom, come home. You're making a mistake." "Mom, if you don't call me, I'm coming to find you." I turned it off fast, but it was too late. Edward didn't need to trace my phone. He had something better, my mother. An hour later, while Mason and I were grabbing food from a gas station, a black car rolled up to the curb. My chest went cold. Edward stepped out like he owned the whole world. Calm, neat, smiling like he'd just won a game. My mother was in the passenger seat. She looked tired, worried, but not angry. "Ella," Edward said my name like it was music. "There you are." I froze. Mason shifted closer to me, his hands curling into fists. "You need to come with us," my mom said, voice shaking. "Please, sweetheart. This isn't safe. You're scaring me." I looked at her, at the woman who raised me, and I saw it. The way she wouldn't meet my eyes. The way Edward's hand rested lightly on her shoulder, guiding her words. "Mom," I whispered, "he's lying to you." Edward's smile never changed. "Your mother's worried. I'm worried. You're tired, confused. Let us take you home. We'll walk." Mason stepped in front of me. "She's not going anywhere with you." Edward tilted his head, still calm, still patient, like Mason was a child throwing a tantrum. "This doesn't concern you. Walk away." "Ella," my mom said again, softer now, "please, for me." I felt my throat close up. She really believed him. Or maybe she just wanted to. Edward had made himself the hero in her eyes, the man fixing everything. I wanted to scream, to tell her everything, to shake her awake. But Edward's eyes met mine, and I saw the warning there. Don't make this messy. Don't make me show them who I really am. Mason glanced at me, waiting for my signal. Fight or run? But Edward wasn't here to fight. Not yet. He was here to pull me back without a scene. And if I didn't go now, he'd find another way. He always did. My mother reached for me. Please, Ella, let's go home. And just like that, I felt trapped all over again. The parking lot went dead quiet. Even the humming gas pump seemed to fall silent when Edward's hand dipped into his jacket and came out holding a gun. The smile on his face didn't move, but his eyes, they were burning now. Cold, sharp, like glass ready to cut. Get over here, Ella, he said softly, like it was a polite request. We're going home. I froze. Mason moved in front of me, his voice low, steady. Put that away, man. You don't want to do this. Edward didn't even look at him. He opened the back door of his car and, in one fluid motion, yanked my mother out by the arm. She gasped, stumbling against him, and then the barrel of the gun pressed against her temple. Edward, I screamed. Gas station customers froze where they stood. Someone ducked behind a pump. A man at the far end of the lot cursed and backed away. But nobody moved fast enough to stop him. Nobody ever did. You think you can run from me? Edward's voice was calm, almost sweet, but every syllable hummed with something dangerous. You think I'd let you disappear? No, Ella, I love you. I love both of you. And I'm not letting either of you go. Mama's eyes were huge, locked on mine, silently begging me not to do anything stupid. But how could I not? Edward, please, I said, hands shaking. Let her go. You don't need to do this. Oh, I do. His voice cracked on the last word. His composure, that fake, perfect mask, was slipping. You keep running. You keep forcing me to prove myself. But I'll make you see. We can be together, all three of us. You, me, and your beautiful mother. I'll marry you both if I have to. We'll be a family. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My breath caught. He wasn't just angry, he was gone. Completely gone. Stop talking like that, I whispered, but my voice broke. Then get in the car. The gun pressed harder to Mama's head. Now, or she dies right here. My whole body locked up. Mason swore under his breath, looking around for help, but there was no time. No police sirens. No hero rushing to save us. Just me, Edward, and the woman who gave me life staring down the barrel of his gun. All right, I shouted. I'll go. Just let her go. Edward's smile returned, bright and awful. Good girl. He shoved Mama back toward the car door, hard enough to make her stumble but not fall. Then he pointed the gun at me, motioning for me to move. Inside, passenger side, now. I walked toward the car on legs that didn't feel like mine. Every step was heavy, like walking through cement, but I didn't dare stop. Mama reached for me, sobbing, but Edward pushed her aside. As I slid into the seat, the door slammed and the locks clicked shut. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd faint. Mason was yelling something behind us. People were finally pulling out phones, but Edward didn't care. He just started the engine, eyes glittering with triumph. See, he murmured as we pulled away. This is how it was meant to be. You'll understand soon, Ella, you'll see. I stared out the window, gripping the door handle, forcing myself not to scream. Because I finally knew the truth. Edward wasn't just dangerous. He wasn't just controlling. He was insane. And I had just climbed willingly into the car with him. The car doors locked with that sickening click, sealing me in. The engine's hum drowned out my heartbeat, but not by much. Edward's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, but his face was calm again, too calm. That fake composure he wore like cologne. You did the right thing, he said softly, eyes on the road. No one had to get hurt. I didn't answer. If I opened my mouth, I might scream. Out the window, the gas station shrank to a speck. Mason was a blur in the rearview mirror, chasing on foot before disappearing behind traffic. I tried to steady my breathing. Slow, quiet, don't give him a reason to look over. Don't let him see you panic. Edward glanced at me with that unsettling smile. You know, I never wanted it this way. But you pushed me, Ella, you kept running. You're scaring Mom, I whispered. He chuckled under his breath. She understands soon. You both will. We'll be together, no secrets, no lies. I'll love you both equally. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful. He said it like he believed it. My stomach twisted. I shifted slightly, just enough to slip my phone from my pocket. My thumb hovered, shielding the screen against my leg. One wrong move, and he'd see. One wrong move, and he'd decide to prove his point again, with the gun. There was barely a signal, but I cracked the screen awake long enough to tap out 3 letters to Mason. HLP. I didn't dare hit send yet. The motion might catch Edward's eye. So I waited until we hit a patch of rough road. When the car bounced hard enough to jolt his focus, my thumb slammed send, screen face down against my thigh. Where are we going? I asked, voice steady even though my insides were ice. Somewhere private, he said simply. No more running. No more people getting in the way. My chest tightened. Edward, you don't have to do this. He glanced at me sharply and for a moment, his mask slipped again. Don't you dare make me the bad guy. I gave you everything. I loved you when no one else cared. I swallowed hard. I never asked you to love me like this. The car went silent except for the tires chewing up asphalt. He tapped the gun against his knee like a nervous habit, and I forced myself not to stare at it. My hand inched toward the door handle, slow, invisible, testing if it would even open. It didn't. Child locks. Of course he thought of that. I shifted again, carefully angling the phone screen so it faced upward. Just long enough to see the little delivered check on Mason's name. Relief rippled through me, fast and dangerous. If Edward noticed. Relax, Ella, he murmured. Once we're far enough away, you'll understand. You won't have to choose between me and your mother. You can have both. My mouth went dry. That's not love, Edward. That's madness. He didn't like that. His hand tightened on the wheel, and the car swerved slightly. My pulse jumped so hard it hurt. I glanced outside, woods rushing by, no houses, no signs of life. Nowhere to run even if I could break the door. But Mason had the message. That was my only hope. Edward looked at me, eyes bright and unblinking. You'll thank me one day. You'll see. I nodded faintly, pretending to agree. While inside I was mapping every move, every possible chance to survive, because I wasn't waiting for anyone to save me. Not this time. The road narrowed into something barely wide enough for 2 cars. Gravel crunched under the tires as Edward turned off the highway, following a winding path swallowed by trees. You'll like it here, he said, almost cheerful. Quiet, no one to interrupt us. I stared at the woods flashing past, black trunks, tangled branches, no lights anywhere. The kind of place where screams went nowhere. You've been here before? I asked carefully. Keep him talking. The more he talks, the more time passes. Edward smiled. I come here to think. Nobody bothers me. Perfect for family time. Family, the word made my skin crawl. After another 10 minutes of silence, the trees broke open to a clearing. An old cabin sat in the middle, its windows dark, roof sagging like a crooked hat. It looked abandoned, but the path was worn. He'd been here before, maybe often. Edward parked close to the door and grabbed the gun again before I could even think of bolting. Out, he ordered. My legs wobbled as I stepped into the dirt. The air smelled damp, like mold and pine needles. Edward unlocked the cabin door with a key he pulled from his pocket. So this was no random spot. This was his place. Inside was worse. Dusty furniture, a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling, a blanket folded on a sagging couch, and on the table by the window, food, water, batteries. He'd prepared for this. Sit, Edward said, motioning to a chair. I obeyed, trying not to look at the gun. What about Mom? I asked, stalling. You scared her half to death back there. He set the gun on the table, close to his hand, and knelt in front of me. His expression softened like we were sharing a secret. She come around. You both will. Once you understand how much I love you. My pulse thudded in my ears. Edward, you can't make people love you by trapping them. You just need time, he said simply, standing again. We all need time together. And no Mason, no cops, just us. I forced a small nod, pretending to give in, while my eyes darted to the window. No headlights. No sign of rescue. How long would it take Mason to track us? An hour or two. Would he even know where to start? Edward paced, muttering to himself about wedding vows, about how no one understood him but me. I kept him talking, asking little questions, acting calm even though every nerve in my body screamed to run. Are you hungry? I asked suddenly. If we're staying here, we need food, right? His face lit up. I'd given him a way to play the doting provider. I brought some things, he said, digging into a crate by the wall. Canned soup, crackers, water. He was prepared for days, maybe weeks. As he fussed with the food, I slipped my phone lower into my lap, praying for a signal. 1 bar, just one. I typed fast, every letter feeling like a gunshot in the quiet. Cabin, woods, north. I didn't even know if it would send. But I hit send anyway and forced my face blank before Edward turned back. You'll see, Ella, he said warmly, setting food on the table like we were on a picnic instead of a kidnapping. By tomorrow, you'll never want to leave. I smiled faintly to sell the lie. But inside I was counting every second, every breath, every way out. Because Mason was coming. Or the cops. Or someone. And if they didn't, I'd make my own way out. The night outside the cabin was too quiet. Even the crickets seemed to know better than to make a sound. Edward hummed to himself as he stirred soup on an old camping stove. The gun never far from reach. My phone stayed buried in my lap, screen dark. No way to check if my message had sent. No way to know if help was coming. Then, in the distance, gravel crunching, tires. Edward froze. His eyes shot to me. Did you tell someone? I shook my head quickly, keeping my voice even. We're in the middle of nowhere. Who could I tell? But he was already at the window, peering into the dark. A faint glow of headlights weaved through the trees. Slow and searching, Mason. It had to be Mason, or the police. Edward cursed under his breath and grabbed the gun, spinning toward me. If they come in here, I'll make them sorry. Don't make me do that, Ella. You're staying with me, one way or another. My stomach turned to ice. Edward, please, just put it down. The front door crashed open before I could finish. Flashlights, shouting. Police, drop the weapon. Edward spun around, the beam of light catching his face, wild. Cornered, his comm mask shattered. Stay back. He roared, swinging the gun toward the door. I ducked low, heart hammering. Mason's voice cut through the chaos from outside. Edward, it's over. Don't hurt her. For a moment, I thought Edward might pull the trigger just to prove a point. But the room filled with red and blue strobes as more officers poured in. Weapons trained on him. One sharp command after another. Drop it now. Edward's hand shook. His lip trembled. And then, like a balloon deflating, he let the gun clatter to the floor. The fight drained out of him in an instant. 2 officers swarmed him, cuffing his hands behind his back. He didn't resist, just stared at me like a sad child who couldn't understand. Why his toy was being taken away. I just loved you, he whispered hoarsely as they led him outside. The cool night air hit me like a slap when I stepped out. Mama was there, wrapped in a blanket an officer must have given her, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Mason ran to me, grabbing my shoulders to make sure I was okay, and I nodded even though my knees felt like paper. One of the officers walked over, his expression grim. Miss, we've dealt with Edward before. He was discharged from a psychiatric hospital 3 years ago. Looked like he'd been stable for a while, but something must have triggered him. I swallowed hard, staring at the patrol car where Edward sat. Head bowed, talking to no one. Emotions, rejection, maybe Mama's mixed signals had cracked something, already fragile inside him. Mama clutched my hands, her face pale and tear-streaked. Ella, I'm so sorry, she whispered. I was just flattered. I didn't see how dangerous he was. I never should have let it go this far. For a second, I wanted to scream at her. How could you? But all I felt was exhaustion. It's okay, Mama, I murmured. We're safe now. That's what matters. Mason hovered close, still wired with adrenaline. I turned to him and managed a shaky smile. Thank you. You saved my life. He grinned back, relief softening his face. You did the hard part, Ella. You kept your head. I just followed the signal. The patrol cars rolled away, taking Edward with them, his silhouette vanishing into the darkness. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe without fear pressing on my chest. Mama hugged me so tight I thought my ribs might crack. I'll make this up to you, she whispered. I swear it. I believed her. Maybe we'd both learned something about love, the real kind, not the twisted version Edward tried to sell us. And as Mason walked me to his car, his arm steadying me, I let myself believe something else too. This nightmare was finally over. The weeks after Edward's arrest passed in a strange blur, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Mother tried to fill the silence with flowers and soft music, insisting we were moving on. But I caught her sometimes staring at the window a beat too long, lips pressed tight, as if she still felt his shadow at the door. The papers said he was mentally unfit to stand trial and would be placed in a secure facility. They made it sound safe, final, like a door locked forever. But I knew Edward too well. He was never a man who stayed where others put him. One evening, as the sun bled orange over the horizon, I found a single white rose on the porch. No note, no footprint, just that delicate bloom, its stem cut clean. Mother swore she hadn't placed it there. I didn't tell her what I thought. Somewhere out there, Edward might still be planning, still smiling that perfect, terrifying smile. And sometimes, when the wind rattles the windows late at night, I wonder if I'll ever truly be free of him, or if this is just the beginning.